Christian Bale is Hollywood's ultimate leading man, but his greatest trick? He delivers his most masterpiece, Oscar-worthy performances when he's not the main character. While other stars fight for screen time, Bale takes minor, background roles in massive ensembles and completely dominates the film. He doesn't just steal scenes, he forces the entire movie to orbit around him. Here is how a child actor turned Hollywood giant mastered the art of being too big for the role he was given. Christian Bale, born January 30th, 1974, in Pembrokeshire, Wales, discovered by Steven Spielberg at age 13, plucked from over 4,000 auditions to star in Empire of the Sun. Before his teens were over, he'd worked with Kenneth Branagh in Henry V, performed Shakespeare, done voice work for Disney's Pocahontas, appeared in a Broadway musical called Newsies, and acted opposite Winona Ryder in the period drama Little Women, where she specifically requested him for the role. By his early 20s, he'd already lived multiple careers. But here's the absurd detail nobody discusses. A child actor who could have become just a pretty face in prestige projects instead chose a different path. He took on roles nobody expected. He went dark. He went strange. He made himself unrecognizable, not through makeup, but through complete inhabitation. Bale has won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, 2 Golden Globe Awards, multiple Screen Actors Guild Awards, and numerous Critics' Choice Awards. He's been nominated for 5 Academy Awards total. He's worked with Christopher Nolan repeatedly. He's been Batman. He's been the villain in American Psycho, the insomniac factory worker in The Machinist, where he dropped 62 pounds and ate nothing but an apple, water, and black coffee daily. He transformed himself to the brink of physical danger for roles that didn't require his face to be recognizable, his name to be above the title, or his character arc to be the story's emotional spine. Yet despite all of this, the pattern most people never notice is this. His greatest performances don't come when he's carrying the film. They come when he's supporting it, when he's one voice among many, when he's sharing the screen with actors equally famous, equally talented, and somehow still commanding your attention. Christian Bale's finest work comes when he plays supporting roles in ensemble casts where he completely dominates the screen without needing to carry the film. He has this rare gift. He makes supporting positions feel like the entire movie orbits around him, even when the story structure says otherwise. The industry has treated him as a lead actor for decades, but what he actually excels at, what makes audiences remember him, what forces Oscar committees to nominate him again and again, is his ability to be too big a presence for the role he's been given. Not too big for the movie, too big for the role. Bale's family was constantly moving. His father, David Bale, was a commercial pilot and entrepreneur who relocated the family repeatedly across Wales, England, and Portugal. His mother, Jenny James, was a circus performer. This constant displacement, being the new kid in every town, having to adapt to new schools, new social hierarchies, new versions of himself, became the foundation for what would later make him extraordinary as an actor. He wasn't acting by choice at first, he was surviving by adaptation. He learned early that reinvention wasn't a skill, it was a requirement. By the time he was 8 years old, he'd already lived in more places than most actors visit in their entire careers. When Spielberg found him, Bale wasn't a child prodigy desperate to be famous. He was a kid who'd learned to become whoever he needed to be to fit in. That's why, decades later, when he chose to gain 43 pounds for a con man, or lose 62 pounds for an insomniac, or shave his head and bleach his eyebrows for a vice president, it wasn't method acting driven by ego or the need to prove something. It was the extension of a life skill he'd mastered at age 5. Becoming the person the role demanded, not the person the industry expected. Released in 2015, The Big Short was an ensemble of 4 major leads. Christian Bale as Michael Burry, Steve Carell as Mark Baum, Ryan Gosling as Jared Vennett, and Brad Pitt as Ben Rickert. Director Adam McKay had just won the Oscar for Best Picture with The Great Gatsby. He assembled a cast that could each carry their own film. Yet the film opens with Bale. On paper, Michael Burry is the character who discovers the trend first. He's the genius who predicts the financial crisis before anyone else sees it coming. But Burry is also described as socially inept, prone to isolation, and so disconnected from normal human behavior that the film makes him look awkward, uncomfortable, almost neurotic. Most actors would lean into the quirk, make him cute, make him endearing despite his strangeness. Bale did something different. He played Burry as someone completely untethered from social performance. When Burry speaks, his face barely moves. His eyes don't track others with conventional interest. He wears a heavy metal t-shirt and sleeps on the floor of his office, not as character traits, but as facts. Not as choices that define him, but as decisions he's made and moved past. The camera finds him staring at spreadsheets, and in that moment, the stillness, the total absence of performance, he becomes more present than anyone else on screen. There's one specific scene early in the film. Burry is in a meeting with other investors. He explains that the entire U.S. housing market is built on fraud. He lays out the data. His voice is flat. His cadence never shifts. He presents the biggest financial discovery of the decade with less emotional investment than someone ordering coffee. And that flatness, that refusal to perform urgency or excitement or the normal human response to discovering he's about to become a billionaire, makes him the only believable person in the room. Everyone else is performing. He's simply existing. The ensemble cast was exceptional. Critical reviews noted that Bale, Carell, Gosling, and Pitt all delivered committed performances. But Bale's commitment was to the opposite of what audiences expect from major actors in major films: invisibility. Presence without performance. A man so committed to his character's disconnect that he made disconnection magnetic. In 2013, David O. Russell brought together a different ensemble: Christian Bale as Irving Rosenfeld, Amy Adams as Sidney Prosser, Bradley Cooper as FBI agent Richie DiMasso, and Jennifer Lawrence as Rosalind Rosenfeld. This was a different kind of film, stylish, comedic, set in the 1970s, based on the true story of the FBI's abscam sting operation. Bale's preparation for Irving Rosenfeld was extreme. He gained 43 pounds. Not muscle, not character fat. Fat that hung on him, that made him move differently, that changed how his spine carried his weight. He herniated a disc in his back because of the way Irving's character slouched. He shaved part of his head to create a comb-over. He wasn't trying to look ridiculous. He was trying to become a man who'd stopped taking care of himself, who'd prioritized survival over appearance, who'd accepted his own decline and moved forward anyway. The specific moment that defines his performance happens in a dialogue scene with Amy Adams. Irving is explaining his philosophy. He's not trying to convince her. He's not performing seduction or confidence. He's simply telling her who he is, a man who does bad things to survive, who has made peace with his moral compromises, who understands that his life is a series of schemes because the alternative is failure. He delivers a line: "The art of survival is a story that never ends." And in that moment, despite being surrounded by actors equally famous, Cooper's manic energy, Adams's intelligence, Lawrence's unpredictability, Bale grounds the entire film. He becomes the moral center, not because he's good, because he's honest about being bad. That honesty, delivered through a slouch and a comb-over and 43 extra pounds, made him the emotional anchor of an ensemble that should have been fragmented. Director David O. Russell later stated that Bale's performance was magic. He was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actor. But the character he played wasn't the lead of the story. The story was about the sting operation. Irving was the vehicle to get us there. Yet Bale made Irving so present, so detailed, so committed to existing in that slouch and that acceptance of his own mediocrity, that the film became about him. In 2018, Adam McKay directed Vice, another ensemble piece. This time, Christian Bale as Dick Cheney, Amy Adams as Lynn Cheney, Steve Carell as Donald Rumsfeld, and Sam Rockwell as George W. Bush. Bale gained 40 pounds. He bleached his eyebrows. He shaved his head. He studied Cheney's exact cadence, his physical stillness, the specific way he held his hands. He ate a lot of pies to achieve the weight, then sustained it through production. Bale has said repeatedly that he will stop doing extreme weight fluctuations because of the damage to his aging body. Yet he did it again, for a vice president, for a supporting role, for a character who appears less frequently on screen than the president. The performance is remarkable because Dick Cheney is, by definition, invisible. He's the second in command. He's the bureaucrat. He's the man behind the scenes. Most actors playing vice presidents default to playing the political intrigue, the scheming, the ambition. Bale played invisibility. He played a man so comfortable in the background that he became the foreground. In a scene where Cheney meets with George W. Bush and is asked to be VP, Bale doesn't leap at the opportunity. He negotiates. He explains what he would and wouldn't do. He treats the second highest office in the United States like a job he's deciding whether to accept. Not because he's arrogant, but because he's already mentally run the calculations. He's already planned 5 moves ahead. That stillness, that comfort in planning while others are performing, makes him the most powerful person in every scene.